Thank you for joining us around the fire. For more information or to make a donation, please visit randomactsnetwork.com. Now, want to hear a scary story?
On her way home from the market, an old woman took a shortcut through the cemetery. She was so hungry, and the money she'd saved had barely filled her basket. As always, she wondered how she'd make it to the next week, though she always found a way. As she passed under a massive weeping willow, she noticed that several gravestones were missing, and some plots had even been dug up. For what reason, she had no idea. Looking around, she seemed to be alone in the graveyard. With her mind wandering, she failed to keep her eyes on the path before her, and she tripped over something, falling to the ground. Sore, she looked back to see a large stick, or rather, some kind of bone. She picked it up, eyeing it carefully, and looking around once again, seeing no one. Without another thought, she added the bone to her basket and continued on her way. She thought of the vegetables she carried, corn and onions, green beans and carrots. Her stomach grumbled, thinking of the delicious soup she'd have for dinner. Soup was so perfect this time of year, not to mention the many health benefits of bone broth. She started the pot of water immediately upon getting home, adding her fresh vegetables along with barley, potatoes, and seasonings. The bone boiled in the bottom of the pot, and the delicious stew simmered gently, saturating her entire home. A familiar meow made its way to her ears, and the woman opened her door to see the stray cat who often visited. Excited for the company, she invited her small friend in, providing a bowl of fresh water and a few bites of chopped carrots. When the soup was done, she sat with her bowl and savored every bite. It was delicious, and the large pot would surely last for days. The cat's starving eyes watched her as she finished, and she knew she had to share. The woman plucked the bone from the pot, still simmering, and fed one end into her meat grinder. The long boil made it a bit easier to grind the first few inches into a sand-like texture that piled onto a small plate she'd prepared. Growing up, her mother had taught her to use every last bit of any resource. This always included the animal bones, an excellent source of calcium and protein with barely any flavor of its own. Mixing the grindings with a mashed potato, she placed the rest of the bone back in the pot and set the plate in front of the cat, licking her spoon. They were both so spoiled, she thought. Hours later, she awoke in the dead of night as a terrified howl filled her ears. Illuminating her lantern, she squinted into the room, but the cat was nowhere to be found. She called for him, but he didn't come. The soft bubbling of the simmering soup was the only noise in the night around her, until she heard the voice.
Give me back my bone.
The woman turned to see the small window above her stove was now open, letting in the chilly night breeze. First the howling, and now... She was so tired, and the wind often groaned through the house, but this sounded so clear. Closing the window, she planned to look for the cat in the morning. She climbed back into bed, pulling the blanket over her and settling in. But then, she heard it again.
Give me back my bone.
The woman was still in the bed, eyes wide open. She just needed to wait until the sun was up, she told herself. She'd had too much to eat and was having a nightmare. She insisted to herself that there was no voice at all. But only a while later, the voice returned.
I want my bone back.
It came from right outside her door. She stole from the bed, plunging her hands into the scalding soup to retrieve the bone. She rushed to the window, opening it quickly, and tossed the bone into the darkness. "Take it!" she screamed. It was silent. Trembling, the woman shut the window once again with her charred hands and stepped back into her home. Had it worked? Was it gone? She could only hear herself breathe.
I want my bone.
The door burst open, and the woman screamed with mortal terror. "I gave you your bone! I gave it back! I'm sorry. I didn't know. I gave it back. What more do you want from me?" She sank into her bed as the being stepped through the doorway into her home.
I want the rest of it.
The Soup.